Hola, amores, ¿qué tal? Soy Madison y bienvenidos a Everyday Español. Hello, everybody. My name is Madison, and welcome back to Everyday Español. In today's video, we're going to be talking about double negatives in Spanish. For a lot of people learning Spanish, these sound really weird because in English, we don't have double negatives. It's one of the first things we learn is that we can't say, I don't know nobody, because we can't say that. But double negatives in Spanish are 100% correct, and they are used all the time. So let's tackle them because I know they sound weird to us English speakers, but they are perfectly normal in how we speak Spanish. So in today's video, we're going to learn how to use the following words. No, ni, nunca, jamás, ningún, ninguno, ninguna, nada, y nadie. So the first thing we're going to need to be able to do is to turn affirmative sentences into negative sentences. So what does that really mean? So let's look at an affirmative sentence. If I said, Alonso hace ejercicios, I'm saying Alonso exercises. Now, how can I turn that sentence into a negative sentence to say he doesn't exercise? You would say, Alonso no hace ejercicios. He doesn't work out. Pretty simple. The no just goes right in front of the verb. But you could also say, Alonso nunca hace ejercicios. Or you could also say, Alonso jamás hace ejercicios. Both meaning Alonso never exercises. Now, you're like, well, why is there jamás y nunca? Jamás is just a lot stronger. But again, you can use either one if you want to say never. But as you can see with all three of these, no, nunca, y jamás, they all go right in front of the verb, just to turn that into a negative sentence. Now, what happens when you have two verbs in a sentence? How do I make it a negative sentence, and how do I use these quote-unquote double negatives in Spanish when there are two verbs in the sentence? So let's look at an example. If I said, ¿me ves bien y me escuchas bien? I'm asking, can you see me well and can you hear me well? So if I replied to that and I said, no, no te veo bien ni te escucho bien. So in these sentences, I'm saying, no, I don't see you well and I don't hear you well. Like I can't really hear you. Now, when I translated that to English, we kind of said, I don't hear you or see you well. But in Spanish, we can't use our normal or, because you might be looking at me like, well, why didn't you just use o? Because o means or. Well, in Spanish, there is like a direct negative to that. So if I'm listing something and I'm saying I'm negating that sentence, instead of using o for or, I have to use ni. And in English, it means nor, which all I know kind of sounds weird. We're like, I don't really use nor. You use or. Yes, that's fine. Okay, but it like technically means nor. And so you would just say, I don't hear you well, nor do I see you well. But I know we just use or, but you have to in Spanish use ni. So when we're negating more than one thing, we're going to use no, whatever the thing is. And if you're adding more to something, you're going to use ni to separate the things that you were negating. Moving forward, if I said, ¿Has viajado a España? Have you traveled to Spain before? And you want to say, no, I haven't. Okay, you could say, no he viajado a España. That is one way you could say it. So if somebody asked me that question, how would I use a double negative to respond? So I would say, no he viajado nunca a España. No, I have never traveled to Spain. But you could also say, no, nunca he viajado a España. So the nunca can either go right before the verb or it can go directly after the verb. But you need the no in there at the front. So I could say, no pienso comer nunca insectos. I will never eat an insect. So when the structure is here, you want to use a double negative. Okay, you use no plus the verb, and then directly after the verb comes nunca. So the words no, nunca, y jamás, they all negate verbs or actions. Now, if you want to negate a thing, you were going to use ningún, ninguno, or ninguna. Ninguna we use for feminine nouns. Ninguno we use for masculine nouns, and ningún we also use for masculine nouns. You're looking at me and you're like, okay, why do these words almost look the exact same, ningún y ninguno, and they both are used for masculine nouns? How the heck am I supposed to know? Well, let's look at how we can use these with masculine nouns because they do mean something quite slightly different. So if I asked you, ¿Tienes algún problema? Do you have a problem? And you want to say, no, I don't have a problem. You would respond with, no tengo ningún problema. I don't have any problem. I don't have a problem. But on the flip side, you could also say, no tengo ninguno. No, I don't have any. So what's the difference in these? Profe, so when do we use which? When you are using ningún, you have to mention the noun. So in the example, the above example, so ¿tienes algún problema? Problema is the noun, right? And I responded with, no tengo ningún problema. I mentioned the noun after ningún. So that's when you use ningún. You have to mention the noun when you are using ningún. Whereas if we're using ninguno, we're completely replacing the noun. We're not mentioning the noun in the sentence. So in the above example, again, I said, no tengo ninguno. Period, done, end of sentence. I didn't mention the noun, so I used ninguno, completely replaces that noun. Let me show you an example of how using ninguno would be incorrect in this sentence. So if I said, no tengo ninguno problema. Wrong, no, we can't use that. Why? Because I mentioned the noun, problema. So I can't use ninguno if I'm mentioning the noun. I can either just get rid of problema and keep it as ninguno, or if I want to keep problema in the sentence, I need to change it to ningún, because we use ningún when we mention the noun. All right, I just got a notification to do in my Unacademy lesson for the day, so let's pause on the nose, ningún, knees, all of that for a quick minute to complete my Unacademy lesson. All right, so I'm translating the sentence. I drink a beer and I eat a hot dog with my friend. Yo bebo una cerveza y yo como un hot dog con mi amigo. Okay? All right, translate the sentence. Where is the washroom? ¿Dónde está el baño? Está cerca del bar. It's near the bar. Translate the sentence. Excuse me, where is the school? Disculpe, ¿dónde está la escuela? Bien. All right, translate the sentence. Good morning, madam. Where's the school? Buenos días, señora. ¿Dónde está la escuela? Perfecto. Look at that. I learned a new word in just under a minute. All right, so let's dive back in. Let's look at a couple examples of ningún versus ninguno so that you guys have a plethora of examples to be like, oh, okay, I got this. If somebody asked you, ¿tienes un lapicero? Do you have a pen? I want you guys to think, how could you use ningún to respond to this sentence? Negatively, you don't have one. I would say, no tengo ningún lapicero. Why did I use ningún? Because I mentioned the thing, the noun, the lapicero, the pen. I don't have one. Now, if somebody says, what? You really don't have a pen? And I say, no tengo ninguno. No, I don't have any. I don't have one. Did I mention the pen in my response there? No, so I used ninguno. Now, lucky for us, with feminine nouns, we only have one, ninguna. So if someone asks me, ¿tienes una camisa verde? Do you have a green shirt? And I'm going to say, I'm looking. No, I don't have one. Okay? No tengo ninguna. Why ninguna? Because I'm referring to la camisa verde que no tengo. The green shirt that I don't have. So I might ask you, my Spanish students, ¿tienes una pregunta? Do you have a question? And you want to say, no, I don't have one. No tengo ninguna. No, I don't have a question because pregunta is feminine. Okay, we're doing all right? You guys, hopefully this is starting to make a little bit more sense. We're going to move on to our last two negative words, nada y nadie. So nada means nothing. It literally means nothing. So we use nothing when we are talking about things. We use nada when we're talking about things. So I'm saying you use this with nouns that you can count. So you're like, well, what do you mean, nouns you can count? For example, you can count libros, books, pens, markers. You can count all of those things. I have a problem. I have 4 markers. I have 1 book. I have 3 questions. Okay? Those are nouns that you can count. So you're looking at me, you're like, okay, I can see how you can count these, but like, what are things that you can't count? Like, what does that mean? So for example, you can't count milk. You can't count monies. And you might be like, what do you mean you can't count money? Money has quantity. You would never say, I have 4 monies. We would never say that. So that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't say, if you wanted to say like, I have money, tengo dinero, you would never say, I have a money. That doesn't work. You would never say, I have 4 milks. That just doesn't make a lot of sense either. So those are things you can not count. So let's move on to the examples of using nada in context. So somebody asks you, ¿necesitas algo? Do you need something? I respond with, no, no necesito nada. No, I don't need anything. So yes, I said nada means nothing. So literally translating the sentence, it says, I don't need nothing, which again, sounds weird to us English speakers, but in Spanish, that is 100% correct how you say it. It's really just, I don't need anything. Now, if I wanted to say, I don't know about that, I would say, no sé nada de eso. I don't know anything about that. No sé nada de eso. All right, and moving on to nadie. So if we use nada with nouns, countable nouns, things, we use nadie to talk about people. So for example, if I would say there's no one here, I would say no hay nadie aquí. No hay nadie aquí. There is nobody here. Now, if I threw a party but nobody came, so sad. If I want to say that, I would say no vino nadie a la fiesta. No vino nadie a la fiesta. Because I'm saying nobody, I'm referring to a person or a group of people. Nobody came to the party. How sad. All right, mis amores, we tackled the double negatives in this video. If you have any lingering questions, type them in the comments below so that I can respond to you guys and interact with my community. Make sure you share this video, you like this video, you subscribe, and just share it with your friends. And I will see you guys next time on Everyday Español for more Spanish just like this. Me voy.